fault line runs up the entire coast of Oregon and Washington that someday could cause a more devastating earthquake than anything ever predicted along California's infamous San Andreas Fault. It's called the Cascadia Subduction Zone and sits right on the ring of fire that rims the Pacific Ocean. It'll eventually send powerful ground-shredding shakes through much or all of the land between the coast and the Cascade Mountain Range.
It'll be spread from Canada to California, over 800 miles.
Leading Cascadia quake expert Chris Goldfinger says much of the building in this area happened before people knew it's a quake zone.
The whole Pacific Northwest is very, very fragile. Essentially, our cities are sort of turn-of-the-century cities built on a time bomb.
If it should hit Seattle at a monstrous 9 or higher on the Richter scale, FEMA's regional planner points to just one of many frightening results.
When the skyscrapers start swaying, well, a lot of them are designed to have their windows pop out. There'll be 3 feet of broken glass on the roads.
Matt Caesar didn't want to discuss death toll numbers, but it's clear.
Many people will lose their lives, unfortunately.
These attractive hillsides are filled with many homes that would come tumbling down. And because there's so much water, another big problem exists, like in Seattle.
Seattle was built on fill, and that doesn't do well during disasters.
So you have the earthquake shaking, and then you have the ground basically just kind of liquefying out from under the buildings.
So the structures on top of it will find they're on ground that's suddenly moving side to side, up and down. Hard to survive something like that. And gas lines, water lines, sewage lines will all be breaking. There'll be much flooding, and lots of fires.
I was in Katrina, the water was boiling with fire because the gas lines were ruptured where it flooded, and then it ignites, so the water is literally on fire.
Highways and roadways will buckle, overpasses crumble, bridges like those connecting Portland's 2 sides and Oregon to Washington would come tumbling down.
And so you'll have the major highways blocked every couple of miles by collapsed bridges.
The area is rich in hydroelectric power, but many of the lines and towers bringing it in will fall. Getting all these things restored could take a long, long time.
Months in some areas years.
Then comes the topper. The quake would cause a tsunami so large it would wipe out anything not on high enough ground. The tsunami that follows is going to come rushing in here and be anywhere from 20 to 40, 60, 80 feet deep maybe, and most of the structures that have survived the quake are going to be smashed into by a wall of water, and it doesn't end there. The next one could be even higher, the next wave after that, even higher. Much of Seaside, Oregon is almost eye level with the ocean. Planning manager Kevin Couples knows just about all the area's schools would be right in the tsunami zone. That's why he's really pleased residents recently voted for funding to move the schools and kids to higher ground.
So now they're basically going to be outside the inundation zone and on stable ground.
But that kind of worst-case planning is unfortunately rare because this area has been strangely quiet for so long when it comes to quakes.
The Ring of Fire, you can see all these other places having this seismic activity, and then there's this one void in our area that's not.
As he campaigns for smarter building and planning in this region, Goldfinger says he gets every kind of reaction.
Everywhere from I'm going to pick up my family and move to the Midwest to meh.
As one friend who lives right by the ocean said to him,
if a tsunami gets me, I've had a good life.
Resistance mainly comes from those who don't want to spend the necessary dollars to retrofit old buildings, or from areas scared to lose tourist dollars.
They don't want people to be afraid to go to the coast because they've heard about this earthquake thing. And so that's what happens when economics meets Mother Nature.
Recent discoveries show these killer Cascadia quakes hit on average 243 to roughly 500 years apart. Well, it's been 318 years since the last one, so parts of the region are way overdue. Though again, we're talking averages, so no one knows when the next will hit. Only that for sure, sooner or later, it shall.
We could have it literally right now and we'd be looking around going, okay, I guess this is it.
Someday it's going to happen, and that could be 15 minutes from now, or that could be years down the road.
Caesar is sorry for reports that could panic the population, but he's at least grateful they're getting folks to talk and prepare.
So it is an important thing to have these conversations with your kids and family.
He points out in a region of 7 million potential victims, it's quite likely rescuers won't be able to get to you, so you'll need to rescue yourself.
At some point, you got to look and say, I've got to take care of myself, take care of my family, prepare yourself.
Paul Strand, CBN News, reporting from Seattle.